Thursday afternoon, to your 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us. Legalized tampering, day 2 underway. The new league year starts in 24 hours tomorrow at 4 o'clock. All these negotiations that are going on can become official, and the Browns remain active. They're doing the work on the defensive line. Shelby Harris coming back, 2-year deal, $9 million per a league source, that according to Aaron Wilson. Also, Joe Flacco doesn't look to be in the cards. The Browns have agreed to terms with former #1 pick Jameis Winston instead of Flacco as Deshaun's backup. The deal is 1 year and worth up to, that is an important clause there, up to $8.7 million. Watson's remaining void years of his contract expire Wednesday. That is his old contract. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Jeff, Winston, Harris. Harris is important. They needed those guys back. They got Hurst yesterday. They get Harris today. Jameis Winston is 10 years younger than Joe Flacco, and I know Browns fans don't want to hear that. A lot of the same problems. Throws a lot of interceptions.
Well, there's a reason that these guys in their, times in their careers, they're number 2s. They're not starting quarterbacks. The ability to be able to, put together drives, put points on the board, but basically almost sink your own battleship. And, Joe was on a very high rate of throwing interceptions last year, and obviously it really came back to bite him, of course, in the playoff game, with the back-to-back pick sixes. The thing with Joe Flacco, this is a story that nobody's ever going to forget in Cleveland lore. It'll be something magical. Everybody will always remember, obviously, that holiday season from Thanksgiving through Christmas into January. But to think, Joe's not getting any younger. And, part of the advantage Joe had was, he was out of the league, for most of the season. So when he came in, he was fresh when there were a lot of beat up bodies. I mean, it was fun, but to think, you were going to do it again. And look, it's not like anybody else is beating down Joe Flacco's door right now either. Jameis, you get a younger guy. Yes. Interceptions are basically what took him out of anybody considering him a #1 starting quarterback for anybody. But, he can make every throw. He can get hot and he can beat some teams. But again, at the end of the day, it's a lot of, lip gesture towards something that we all hope that we never have to see. In a perfect world, Deshaun Watson suits up every week, plays quarterback for this team, and we don't have to worry about it. That's the plan, and the Browns have done some good things of trying to improve the roster in other spots, trying to certainly improve the wide receiver core. So hopefully that they can get the best out of whoever ends up playing quarterback. But the plan is obviously that it should be Deshaun Watson.
All right. Along the lines of Winston, hasn't really played a meaningful amount of games since 2021. Had 7 starts. This from Cody Sueck. Tweets out, second in big-time throw rate, 7.1%. Second in EPA per play, 0.24. 14th turnover-worthy play rate, 3.0. Replicating that type of production, not reasonable. It does show, and Jameis Winston is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. He just is. And remember, this guy was a former #1 overall pick. I mean, that means that he had some talent.
Look, the guys in Tampa loved him. He was with New Orleans, with Drew Brees, with New Orleans, with Derek Carr. These guys all love him. He's got a great personality. And obviously, Jameis Winston has been a big-time athlete since he was in high school. He was a big-time baseball recruit, obviously a big-time football recruit. So no stranger to the locker room, no stranger to team camaraderie. And I think at this point in Jameis's career, this is kind of going to be what it is. I don't think he's going to set in anywhere for a long period of time. Most backups don't. I'm sure him and Deshaun Watson, obviously being relatively similar in age, have a history with each other, know each other well. You get to come in here, and obviously it's a little bit of a sounding board, for Deshaun, somebody that, he knows can speak with, about life off the field, about the pressure on the field. I like the move. Again, I think you made a great point of stressing the up to $8.7 million, because a lot of that would come down to exactly how much Jameis Winston actually sees the field. And maybe for a couple of take-a-knee situation or maybe a Week 18 game, Jameis Winston should not play this season for the Cleveland Browns at all. but he's got a vibe to him. People draw to him. He's got that electricity that, people just come to. And, at the end of the day, I think it's good. But, and I think with Jameis, I think you truly understand that Jameis is the number two. I think if Joe was here, there would have been a lot of people who maybe would have thought that maybe there was a fallacy that Joe wasn't just the number two, that maybe Joe was, label it plan B, or if something went wrong, Joe was going in. Jameis comes here with the full understanding that he is the backup quarterback. He's the guy wearing a microphone on his neck and an earpiece in his ear and wearing a baseball hat. He's not here to play.
All right, so the Browns did sign a veteran running back. Guy coming off an injury, Nyheim Hines, one-year deal worth up to $3.5 million. Was a non-football related injury, missed all of last year. Tore his LCL and ACL rather, jet ski accident. So again, Himes a guy that played in Buffalo, so Ken Dorsey will have some familiarity with him. Played with Colts. Bubba Ventrone has some familiarity with him.
Well, I think the thing you look here is probably returnability is probably the first thing that kind of stands out to you. And, we had a big debut with the Buffalo Bills, taking a kickoff to the house. Certainly, had time, with Bubba Ventrone in Indianapolis. This is also a guy at one time, I think his rookie year, called 63, 64 passes in the Indianapolis Colts offense. So, again, I thought the Browns would probably be a little bit bigger player in the running back market. I don't know they have any, idea yet on Nick Chubb, and probably don't. I think it's maybe more of an indictment on, what they believe maybe Jerome Ford is capable of. But you look at it and, with Jerome and obviously now, with Hines, these are two guys that are very capable to contribute out of the backfield as receivers, which is something that's not always been the case. For Nick Chubb, he's good. It was not a great or ever considered a plus receiver out of the backfield. So maybe something that you're starting to see from the Browns, and probably a little vision of maybe, what this Ken Dorsey, Kevin Stefanski union of an offense is going to be. So certainly, it always works this way in the NFL. You usually end up going places, obviously, where you have friends, you have family, folks that you've worked with before. They're always trying to find a way to get guys in that they're familiar with. So, could be an interesting move. I still think the Browns are going to be, players in the running back market. In the draft is where I guess it's going to go now, because all these running backs pretty much went off the board and went off quickly, which doesn't necessarily surprise me either, though, because the Browns always seem to want to zag where everybody else is zigging. So if everybody else went heavy on free agent running backs, makes me think the Browns probably have a guy or two targeted within the draft.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Obviously, a lot of people want to talk about some of the additions.
Hey, everyone. Now that we have Jeudy as our number 2 receiver, a great move by AB at a great price, I might add, who in free agency or in the draft are prospects that can return punts and or kickoffs that the Browns should consider, since I believe last year's return man, Prochet, is a free agent? And can you explain the new kickoff rule being talked about, which might make having a good kickoff returner a key piece for the team? Thanks for the input. Go Browns.
All right, Jeff, let's take a look at this tweet, and then I'm going to let you kind of explain that. You mentioned Hines. So Nyheim Hines missed the entire 2023 season. As I mentioned, he tore his ACL, LCL in a jet ski accident. But you mentioned the receiving back, which is very true. Also, 2022 averaged 9.8 yards per punt return, 29.2 per kick return, and had the 2 kick returns for touchdown. So the short answer is Hines probably is a guy that they're going to look at as a returner. And then the kickoff rule. I asked you about this earlier, so...
Well, the plan is to try to still keep basically kickoff return part of the game, because the way it is now, obviously, you just have the kickers airing the ball out of the back of the end zone. But the thing is you're going to try to do it on a shorter, condensed field. Basically, you don't want guys running 23 miles an hour into each other full speed. I mean, it's going to create a lot of injuries. Also, the blocking is going to be a little bit more defined as far as, what guy you have. So you're not going to have any questions of, somebody taking a shot from somebody full speed that they did not see. It's going to be interesting. Me personally, I think it was something they probably should have just left alone. Maybe you got once a game where one return man decided to gamble, because now these kickers are just absolutely destroying the ball out of the back of the end zone. But I mean, you have a bunch of special teams coaches And they all sit around and talk, and they're probably not too thrilled that kickoff return is not really part of the game anymore. I mean, they understand player safety, but it doesn't mean these guys aren't going to get together, put their heads together, because at the end of the day, it does kind of affect their job a little bit if one aspect of their job is just basically being almost eliminated, so to speak. But you have guys that are just trying to find a way to keep that part still in the game. There's still some other things that are, seem to make no sense. Like you have to declare that you were going to do an onside kick. I mean, it seems to make no sense whatsoever. I mean, is it like playing Texas Hold'em and saying I have to declare I have a pair of aces in the hole? I mean, some of this stuff I think they've gone too far into. But look, especially special teams folks, special teams is very important, and they would like every aspect of special teams to still be a part of the game. And they're just trying to find a way to hopefully maybe get kick return and teams to try to actually return kicks more often.
All right, before we go to break, Browns a couple of offensive line signs as well. They re-signed Michael Dunn, their guard. They also signed Hakeem Undiniji. He was on the practice squad of the Vikings. And we're going to not try to pronounce that last name again, but a big tackle from the practice squad of the Vikings signed as well. So building up some of the reserve depth on the offensive line as well.
Hakeem Adeniji, obviously. We're actually fans of him when he was coming out through the draft process. We actually thought there was somebody that the Browns might have some interest in as a day 3 rotational tackle. Started his career with the Cincinnati Bengals. Did get some playing time. His career path got thwarted, obviously, in Cincinnati when Jonah Williams went to the right side. So that kind of changed any chance that he really had there. He wasn't truly developing, didn't get a ton of opportunity to develop. But you do have a new offensive line coach here for the Cleveland Browns. And, look, you want to find guys that maybe, or need some rust, need some work, or haven't developed, similar to a guy like Ethan Posick you did a couple of years ago. And obviously you had your offensive line coach do some wonders there. Obviously your previous offensive line coach did wonders with Wyatt Teller. You go out and, you basically ask your offensive line coaches, is there anybody you'd like to work with? We got a couple open spots. We'd like to get somebody in here. Obviously Jack Conklin's not going to do a lot during the spring and the summer. He'll probably be on a pitch count. DeJuan Jones, we're not exactly sure where he'll be. Will he be working on the right side? Will he be working on the left side? Will he be working on both sides? All these guys are coming back from injuries, so you need some tackles to do OTAs, things like that. James Hudson can't take every rep at both sides. So just to get a body in here. And Michael Dunn, has anybody got it better than Michael Dunn? I mean, you get paid, you show up, you work, and you basically back up Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, and as well as those guys play and the path that it looks like those guys are forever going to play, by the time the opportunity comes for Michael Dunn to actually maybe get some reps, Michael Dunn might have to retire himself.
Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Now I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. And some guys still out there in free agency the Browns might be interested in. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
All right, everybody. Let's take 5. With one of these 5 Lady Luck scratch-offs from the Ohio Lottery.
Like the $5 25X. It's a nice way to nab up to 150 grand.
The Lady Luck family of scratch-offs is the Ohio Lottery's first ever, with 5 price points from $1 to $20. They're an easy way to break into some fun.
We continue talking Browns with Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, it's Bob from Chillicothe. Once again, I think Andrew Berry has hit it spot on for a need we had. The new receiver will be, I think that he's a proven number 2 or 3 with just the numbers he's had in Denver, and that's with bad quarterback play. And I'm just a little bit worried, but only having the 1 year. Do you think that Berry will be able to get him to agree to a 2 or 3 year extension on his contract? And as always, I want your opinions on this, and go Browns. Woof, woof.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Jeff, he hasn't lived up to the 15th selection in the first round. But change of scenery. Right now he's making, I think it's just under $13 million is what he was tagged at. So, I mean, it's kind of a game of poker. If you extend him now and he doesn't perform, you're stuck with him. If you wait too long and he looks really good, he's going to want to test free agency and see if he can get $30 million.
Well, I mean, they're in obviously a weird situation. Obviously, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and of course Jerry Jeudy himself, all of them at the currently at the end of their contracts. But no agent is going to let Jerry Jeudy re-sign a contract right now. No agent is going to let Elijah Moore sign a contract extension right now. You want to go out there and obviously put your best foot forward, put your best statistical season in front of you, and hopefully that's basically how you secure the bag, so to speak. The thing with Jeudy and the episode I had put out Thursday, I had basically gone through what was available and basically just said, look, this was the guy. The Browns had interest in the past. I've been trying to get him here to Cleveland for 2 years. But yes, 1,000-yard season. No, 2 seasons, over 850 yards receiving out of 4. It's not too bad because he played with some terrible, terrible quarterback play in Denver. And I'm not just talking about just Russell Wilson. The quarterback play before that was terrible. You get excited about this. Obviously, he's coming to a team that played in the playoffs last year. Something he's familiar with. There's drops. There is some times where Jerry Jeudy just drops some inexcusable balls. But between he and Amari Cooper, there are 5 guys who have over 10 receptions of 40+ yards over the last 2 NFL seasons. Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy are 2 of those guys. It was just a way of finding another weapon. And the Browns, look, they just really haven't developed a wide receiver yet. And look, when you're analytic, you look at numbers, and you know what? They can look at their own numbers and say, look, we've drafted all these guys. What has any of them done to this point? And so you kind of got to say, look, looking at the numbers, that says what we've been doing hasn't been working. So we got to find a different way to go, a different path. Then obviously now you've gotten 3 years in a row where you traded for Amari Cooper, traded for Elijah Moore, now traded for Jerry Jeudy. And basically you're in this situation where you hope they all prosper. And most likely come a year from now, you're talking about hopefully re-signing 2 of them.
Yeah. And again, it's intriguing. You would tend to think because of those 3, they're going to play more 1 tight end, 1 running back and get those 3 guys on the field. It opens up the field a little bit more for the offense. This is
and the other thing that I really like, just real quick, is anyone can play anywhere. Amari Cooper can play in the slot. Elijah Moore can play in the slot. Jerry Jeudy can play in the slot. They can all play on the outside. So this should really be a way for the Browns offense to set up and just say, hey, this week we like these matchups. So this is going to be a little bit different than what we did last week. So it's not, it gives each one of them to just go out there and completely be themselves, not to be forced to be something that maybe they necessarily aren't. They can all win on the inside. They can all win on the outside.
So this is interesting. Players to watch that are still on the market that have connections to the Browns coaching staff. So defensive tackle Tier Tart spent 2021-22 with Jim Schwartz in Tennessee. Part of 2023 with Cesar, our new D-line coach. Sheldon Rankins, 2023 with the Browns defensive line coach. Hassan Ridgeway, same as Rankins, also spent 2019 in Philadelphia with Andrew Berry. What are your thoughts just as you look at it? You get Smith back, you get Hurst back, you get Shelby Harris back. Those 3 were pretty effective along with Myles Garrett and the guys that are back. Do you think
I loved what they've done. Because I really think, and I think this is the thing that most people aren't thinking about, is the carryover from year 1 to year 2 should make that group even better. Of those names listed there, I'm not going to lie. I'm looking a little higher shelf. I mean, a name like Arik Armstead out there, obviously DJ Reader out there. I'm looking to go a little bit more top shelf. The Browns really every year usually go with about 2 power moves. If you want to say the Jerry Jeudy move was 1 because as a player almost making $13 million. But I think there's probably 1 more financial significant move they're going to make, and I do believe it's going to be at that defensive tackle room. Right now, they technically have 4, Hurst, Harris, obviously Tomlinson, and Ika. You have no idea, what Ika can give you in year 2. Obviously, you're hoping you're going to get something out of him, but I don't think that they're just going to bank on the 3 in Ika. I think they're looking to go brand name. Because I don't think you're really going to consider Shelby Harris a starter. You're not really going to consider Maurice Hurst a starter. I think they want somebody that's going to go out there and be a 1st and 10 player and then maybe start to make his way off the field like Tomlinson when your nickel and your dime situations come up.
All right, before I let you go, so we get an early look at what the Browns have done in free agency. Where do you think Andrew Berry turns his attention rounds 2 and 3, so earlier in the draft? Is it still a wide receiver? Can you still see him taking a wide receiver? Can you see a running back in that range?
I would say what we're looking at now and what I'm anticipating, if you say you're going to go sign one more of these bigger name defensive tackles, you're not going defensive tackle. I would say you have to look at running back. Pierre Strong, Hines, they kind of do the same thing. Hines does a little bit better, but he certainly is coming back from a pretty significant knee injury. Jerome Ford, I love what he did last year. The question with Jerome is he going to be able to just be a little bit more consistent? Obviously, a lot of carries for 0 yards or negative yards. We don't know when Nick Chubb is going to be available. That's a big, big mystery. Even if the Browns knew, they're not going to tell anybody right now because it's basically going to tip their hat. So I think for right now, running back appears to be very, very big in the pecking order. Linebacker, maybe. And then there is the question of whether or not, do they, maybe move on from Greg Newsome if somebody offers enough. I wouldn't trade Greg Newsome, but, I think the Browns would like to have 3 picks within the top 100 of this draft. And either can they move back from 54 and then get 3 picks in the top 100, or could they stay at 54, maybe move Newsome and get another pick within that top 100? But I would say right now, most likely, in my opinion, I guess just from the work that's been done here and the anticipation they're going to sign a defensive tackle, my guess would probably be running back and most likely linebacker.
Jeff Lloyd, Locked On Browns podcast. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jeff.
All the best, guys. Enjoy the MAC tournament.
Appreciate it. Jeff Lloyd, make sure you check him out. Locked On Browns podcast. Always really good Brown stuff. For this episode, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Casey Kinnamon straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
All right, everybody. Let's take 5. With one of these 5 Lady Luck scratch-offs from the Ohio Lottery.
Like the $1 Lady Luck 5X. Because the pink really pops like my safety vest. Plus, a $1,000 grand prize really hammers it home for me.
And this $2 10X really nails it for me. $2 for a shot at 10 grand? That's rock solid.
The Lady Luck family of scratch-offs is the Ohio Lottery's first ever with 5 price points from $1 to 20. They're built for fun.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, it's Larry out of Cleveland, Larry the Motivator. I'd like to say that I'm glad we got Jeudy because we need to add more pieces because we want to defend against the champs. This is the Chiefs. Let's stock our team up and just run it. Let's keep getting linebackers and keep our team, our squad, our corners, and we need our safety. So add on, blend in, believe each other, and trust each other, man. We can make it. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily and the Barking Dogs podcast. Casey, Jerry Jeudy, again, 15th overall pick, and he was a low-risk, high-reward trade for Andrew Berry. I'm not sitting here telling everybody Jerry Jeudy is going to be, a 1,000-yard receiver. I think he could be pretty good in this offense. We'll see.
Yeah, full transparency. He wasn't my number one wide receiver trade target.
Yep.
But the guys I would have targeted would have cost you more compensation, and it would have been a higher salary. So, First thing I did once I seen the trade go through is I came home and went through PFF and seen his 3 games from last year, his highest graded game, his lowest graded game, and the one that was closest to the actual average. And I watched those, and you see what it is. You see exactly why they took the swing. Low risk, high reward. Now, if you're Denver, you're probably pretty disappointed. You drafted him 15th overall. He never realized his upper bound limits while he was with the Broncos. But you see the traits, you see it flash. He lacks the consistency. So you got to hope that a new change of scenery, new offense, I think that they'll use him similarly as far as putting them in the slot and let him work from there, try to give him as many free releases because the kid's slippery. And he does one thing that the wide receiver room desperately needed. He gives you yards after the catch. Short of Njoku, they really didn't have that out of any pass catchers. So you get him here, you get him in that role, and if he's able to reach those upper bound limits, then all of a sudden this goes from a low-risk, high-reward trade to a home run. You wouldn't spend a 5th and a 6th round pick for someone who's going to be on the field and could potentially impact the game a great deal. So just on its base value, you got to be okay with the trade. But this has it could be a home run, if everything reaches its full potential.
Yeah, and to your point, now with Cooper and Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy, you got a lot of flexibility, and you're playing a lot of 3 wide receiver sets and threatening the defense with them.
Yeah, a ton of speed, different ways you could use them. This actually slots everyone appropriately now, and we can see Elijah Moore on the outside, something he really didn't get to do last year, and something I think he's actually better at than the slot receiver role he was kind of forced into last year. So the kind of maneuverability, and now you don't have to rely on Tillman for as many snaps, kind of let him come on naturally, and you're stocking the cupboard for Watson. You're giving him a great variety of weapons and differing skill sets in that wide receiver room.
All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the defensive line. Za'Darius Smith returning to Cleveland, 2-year deal worth $23.5 million. That's according to Mary Kay Cabot. Maurice Hurst also re-signing with the Browns on a 1-year deal worth up to $3.2 million. We also told you Shelby Harris re-signing with the Browns, 2-year deal, $9 million. That from Aaron Wilson. That one happened today. So the Browns get 3 of their defensive linemen back, and they played well last year. All 3 of those guys performed well.
Yeah, my off-season defensive line wish list is already done. Those were the moves I wanted. I didn't know if Za'Darius was going to be possible. I honestly didn't. But to get him back, and not just for 1 year, get him back for 2 years is huge. Now you got to hope that by the time Za'Darius has cycled through that you already have another guy in place. You can kind of just keep it going instead of renting a guy every year. But that's huge. Getting Mo Hurst back as your rotational pass rusher, that's massive. That's hard to find. It's easier to find a run stuffer, a defensive tackle, than a guy who can really affect the quarterback. So now you have all those parts in place, and then they get another year with Jim Schwartz, the continuity, him understanding when to unleash him, when to pull him back, how to rotate. I think that only increases in year 2.
All right, so pass rush win rates in 2023. This from Cody Suick. Za'Darius Smith, 18.1, 11th among edge rushers. Maurice Hurst, 14.1, 13th among interior defenders. So I guess the question is, most of the pieces are coming back. How does it get better, and do you think it gets significantly better?
Well, that's just it. I do expect it to get better, just based on the continuity, the usage, just the understanding of roles. We already know what Miles is and what Miles does. But I think you saw Alex Wright come along last year. I think you'll start to see him be able to spell Za'Darius and Miles for longer periods of time, keeping those guys fresher for the end of games. Obo was a breath of fresh air as that rotational pass rusher. It's a perfect storm. I do see them making another move at defensive tackle, be it in the draft or maybe another free agent to come. But for the most part, you don't need anything. Anything on top of what you get right now is great.
All right, so an area that will undergo some change, the linebacking core. Anthony Walker, has signed a one-year deal with the Dolphins. Adam Schefter reporting. Patriots are also going to sign Sione Takitaki. 2 years, $6.5 million, can be worth up to $10 million, with some likely to be earned incentives, that according to Tom Pelissaro. That move necessitated this one for the Browns. They agreed to a 2-year, $8 million deal with former Vikings linebacker Jordan Hicks. Hicks also has some ties to Jim Schwartz as well. So, again, would have liked Takitaki back. If he can earn up to that, Hicks is pretty good. If Hicks at $4 million a year for 2 years, that's not a bad deal.
No, it's an upgrade. I mean, it is. I'm going to miss Talk. The physicality he brought, he was an excellent Sam, gave you some mic reps. When you play the Ravens, you need a guy like Talk who's willing to take on a 300-pound fullback. You need that kind of guy. And I'm going to miss him. And I don't want to downplay Walker either. Walker was an excellent leader. I think we can all agree athletically he wasn't where they needed him to be. You upgrade that by getting a Jordan Hicks. 6'1", 236, super consistent, has played mostly inside, but can do the Sam stuff. He's 6'1", 236. He's physical enough. We're talking about a guy who's had 100-plus tackles for 5 straight years. And just that experience, already being with Schwartz, giving JOK a good on-field sounding board. I think that's a good duo, and I do expect them to add to that room as well, but Jordan Hicks, to me, was a home run. And it's someone that, honestly, was kind of out of sight, out of mind. As linebackers are, they're devalued at that position. But he's someone that comes in right away and give you quality starting reps.
Well, and along those lines, and again, this PFF grade, and it's not the end-all, be-all, but it does give you an unbiased kind of look. 74.6 PFF grade, 22nd among all linebackers. So a guy, as you mentioned, the important thing is 5 straight years of over 100 tackles.
Yeah, you got someone who can clean up. You got the guys up front to do the job now between JOK and Jordan Hicks. You got 2 guys that are exceptional at cleaning up. JOK is still going to be more of that slasher, that guy who gets in the backfield, tackles for loss. That's never really been Hicks's game. I think he might have like 11 or 12, might be his high water mark in that area. But you definitely got someone who's going to be consistent. Who's going to be able to put a stop to the run at the point of attack. And like I said, just an excellent sounding board for JOK so he can further and just keep growing in his career.
Well, word coming out today, just now, as a matter of fact, Ian Rappaport reporting that the 49ers are agreeing to terms with former Browns defensive tackle Jordan Elliott. 2-year, $10 million deal for Jordan Elliott. So good for Jordan Elliott. Again, that was a guy who kind of finally started to put it together a season ago. And similar defensive line style out in San Francisco.
Yeah, and as we said here, like right when the season ended, we talked about all the free agents to come. We talked about Mo Hurst being important, but then it was going to be like they're going to turn to Shelby, offer him a deal, and if he turns that down, they might just turn to Jordan Elliott and get him for a little cheaper. Well, we've seen what happened. They got Harris immediately. Elliott's out. Good for him to cash out. He's someone that going into last year, I wasn't sure he was going to make the roster. Played well throughout the year, was solid, and he's earned himself a role in the NFL.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily and the Barking Browns podcast and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. We'll see how some national people are grading day 1 of free agency for the Browns. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily and the Barking Browns podcast. Free agency day one grades. This is from CBS Sports.com. They say the Browns, B+. Andrew Berry continued his run of success when it comes to pouncing on deals involving talented receivers for late-round picks. The Jeudy trade, low-risk, high-reward move for a team that doesn't have much of an ability to acquire external talent because of its cap situation. Casey, there we go again. People keep talking about the salary cap constraints, and there hasn't been anybody that they've said, no, we can't do that because of money.
Yeah, I laugh when I see analysts say that. It's an ability to read the room. Like, yes, the Browns have several high-value contracts on the books, but all those contracts were actually built with restructures in mind at certain years, and it's cap juggling, I'll give them that, but like there's never going to be an inability. Andrew Berry is well in advance. Of course, they'll take value where they can get it, because that means instead of restructuring 5 guys this year, maybe they only do 4, leaving 1 over for next year to keep this thing going forward as the salary cap increases. But yeah, there's no constraints with the cap. But I think the B+ is actually fair. That's what I gave the trade on the day. It's just you gave up a 5th and a 6th for a guy who could, if he reaches his potential, is a top 20 receiver in the league. That's what his skill says he should be. So it's an excellent trade just on that value. And
add in the fact that the 5th and 6th rounds, because of the lack of underclassmen and the lack of 5th-year seniors that are going back, the back end of the draft is going to be a little thinner this year than most as well. All right, so talked about Nyheim Hines earlier in the show. 90.5 PFF receiving grade since entering the league. 5th among all running backs during that time. Spent 5 years with the Colts, with Bubba Ventrone, so the connection and familiarity there kind of makes some sense. Was also with Buffalo for a little bit as well. I was surprised by Hines. Missed all last year he was just out of sight, out of mind, because he didn't play last year because of a water ski accident, torn ACL, torn LCL. Man, I think they still need a running back. I think they need more running back.
Yeah, and it's just the uncertainty of Chubb. If you knew Chubb was going to be Chubb, I think you'd be fine with Chubb, and then Ford and Nyheim as that third down back. But I will say this, and I know the familiarity is a huge part of Hines, but I'm just excited they finally got a playable, rotational offensive piece who can return. He's not going to just be taking up a roster spot just to return. This is a guy who gives you true third down value as a receiving back. So that's how you make your roster flexible. You got a guy who can contribute as a running back and as a returner. And to pay what they did to get him, that's peanuts. And I'm with you. I still think they need to add a running back just because of the uncertainty around Nick Chubb. And I'm not sure if that's going to be a draft pick. I don't know if you can count on a rookie. If Chubb can't play the first month, 2 months of the season, I don't know how much faith you want to have in a rookie to carry that load. I still think they might need to look through free agency to get a guy.
All right, the other news of the day, doesn't look like Joe Flacco's coming back. The Browns sign Jameis Winston, and Winston told Josina Anderson, CBS Sports, I still envision myself as a starter, but having the opportunity to work with Sean Watson, help him the best he can possibly be, is now my main mission. Casey also made the point, it says the contract is up to $8.7 million. Don't read that as being $8.7 million. Probably a lot of incentives, snap counts, and those kind of things in that contract.
Yeah, I'm sure all that stuff's baked in there. I will say this one caught me off guard, though. When I seen that Jacoby went for $8 million and they weren't in on that, I figured that they were definitely – honestly, I just figured that all roads were going to lead to Josh Dobbs. I just figured like it was inevitable. We were going to talk about all these other quarterbacks, and then it was going to be Josh Dobbs being the backup. But the fact they went and got Jameis, it shows what they're placing a value on someone who can still be explosive and dynamic in the event that Watson can't go. But Winston, for all accounts, he's loved in every locker room he's ever been in. He's going to be excellent for content as far as like off-season workout videos. I'm sure we'll get a few laughs on here as well. But I will say this. Everyone is kind of sad that Joe Flacco is no longer an option. And it's going to seem sacrilegious given the ride that we were on last year with Joe. But I really want true offensive innovation. You got rid of the coaching staff. You're reassembling everything. I think that's what this move has in mind. You have a player who can execute more from an RPO standpoint, from a sprint option standpoint, and just be more athletic, and still give you the ability to strike downfield. So I like the move to go get Winston.
Again, it's a former number 1 overall pick. He's 9 years younger than Joe Flacco. Has a strong arm. In a perfect world, backup quarterback never sees the field. That means your starter is taking 17. But I understand fans and their feelings for Joe Flacco. I think Jameis Winston gives you a higher upside at this point in his career. We'll see. Derrick Henry is signing a 2-year, $16 million deal worth up to $20 million, including $9 million fully guaranteed with the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens get Derrick Henry to go along with Lamar Jackson. Make sure you have Advil when you're playing them. And then Patrick Queen is signing a 3-year, $41 million deal with the Steelers. So you got a Titan going to a Raven going to Steelers. Bengals are also trading Joe Mixon to the Texans rather than releasing him. That is after they signed Zach Moss to that 2-year, $8 million deal. So news from around the division, if you will. But Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson together, yikes.
Yeah, and we talked about this during the draft too, and it's like you can make all the adjustments you want, think you got better as a team, but then you look around your division and they drafted well. It's the same thing with free agency. No matter how much of a step you thought your team took, look around your division. Each of these teams are getting better. The Ravens had 3 impactful guys about to hit free agency. They re-signed Madubuike. Stone stays in the division, and then Queen stays in the division. So they're not on the Ravens, but we don't get rid of them. It's just cycling through. But yeah, the Derrick Henry ones, it doesn't put as much fear in my heart as I thought it would, to be honest with you. It's honestly because you got to feed him to get him going. And the more time he has the ball, the less time Lamar has the ball.
Yeah,
that's the way I have to look at it.
It's another battering ram. That's better have that strapped up and get the ice bats ready because it's going to be. Yeah,
that's where you miss talkie right there.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those games. All right, Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily, the Barking Browns podcast. Now I'm going to take one more time out. Other side of the break. We'll look ahead, look at free agency, and then what the Browns might do moving forward. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery partners. Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily and the Barking Browns podcast. So, Casey, we have a snapshot of what free agency looks like. There still may be an addition or two for the Browns. What are your thoughts, though? When you look at what Andrew Berry did, what are your thoughts?
No weak links. You don't look at any one part of this roster and say you have to do this at 54. You can be more fluid now. You've shored things up. Sure, there are things that need more help on the back end. Running back, I'm curious what tight end looks like. But when I just look at what they've done so far, is they've shorted up to ensure that they have no weak links.
What areas of the roster concern you the most at that point, then?
Yeah, I look at running back. I still think running back. And it's just the uncertainty. If we knew Chubb was going to be Nick Chubb right from the rip, I'm not giving this a second thought, but we don't have that luxury. I still think you need someone who can be more of a bell cow. So the reason that Zach Moss getting signed to Cincinnati made me a little sad. That was kind of the guy I had tagged for that role. So I don't know where they're going to turn now, but I definitely think that needs to be addressed. And we still don't know what the back end of this tight end room looks like. Outside of Njoku, we don't know how this is going to shake out. And Dorsey plays a significant amount of 12 personnel, and it's been said thousands of times how much Stefanski loves his tight ends. Well, right now, you got really one that's playable on the roster, so they need to address that as well.
All right, so you look at the second and third rounds, the early picks the Browns have. Where do you think they look?
Well, that's just it. 54, I think you're probably looking at a wide receiver there's a very deep wide receiver and offensive tackle draft. Wouldn't surprise me. My dream is to land the linebacker out of A&M, Edgerrin Cooper. That's a dream I have. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But knowing how it goes, would you be surprised if it's cornerback? The one place we don't even think they need to address. But if the right guy's there, you can't count it out.
Well, and again, to your point, it's not like you're looking to plug. You're looking for a guy that you believe in a year or 2 years or how many ever years can make a significant contribution to your roster. That's kind of what the draft needs to be, so you're not constantly filling through free agency.
Yeah, and we're also need to wrap our heads around this. Now that they've shored up some areas, probably a trade back. I think that's probably the thing we need to prepare ourselves for. And I know that's not sexy and people don't get excited to trade back, but I could see that being the outcome here. When
you look at the receiving core, as you project it forward, Amari Cooper and, Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore, they're all not under contract after this year. How do you, that has to be a little concerning because that can get pricey in a hurry if they have a big year and Deshaun Watson's throwing the ball. Those are first world problems, granted, but it could become a huge, write the checkbook because we got guys that are, putting up numbers.
Yeah, one part of that is Jerry Jeudy scheduled to make 12.9 this year on the fifth-year option. I would almost bet he doesn't play for 12.9. They've been after this guy for 3 years. It would not surprise me if there's already an extension in the works to knock that number down for this year. And we've been saying that about Cooper as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they rework his deal to get him for 2 years, this year and next year. But yeah, as of right now, no one's on the book for 25 out of those guys. So you're looking at Cedric Tillman, and David Bell. So I do expect them to still draft a receiver this year. But if they don't rework one of those contracts, they're going to be in a weird spot. You can't lose all three. No team's in that position to just completely restaff up a wide receiver. But I would expect sometime this June to at least one of those guys get extended for this year and next.
So I had an internal discussion here at our place. A guy that was a Broncos fan made the case that Cooper and Jerry Jeudy, and he said, Jerry Jeudy has suffered from poor quarterback play. His point was Cooper and Jeudy are close to, if not one of the better 1-2 combinations, receiving combinations in the NFL. I don't know if I'd go that far. You got Evans and Godwin, CeeDee Lamb, and who? Help me out here. Cooper. Well, it's got to be Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Yeah. No, I can't put them in that discussion. I can't put Cooper and Jeudy in that discussion. But if we were talking about the two best route runners on the same team, you can have that discussion. But Jeudy has not performed. He's underperformed. I don't think he's had over 850 yards in any given season, and he's had significant snap counts. And I've seen enough receivers produce despite bad quarterback play to completely write off what he's done just because of the quarterback. Good receivers find a way to get open and find a way to make that ball come in their hands. We saw Josh Gordon rewrite record books with a carousel of bad quarterback play. Like if you're truly exceptional, you'll nullify some of that. But from a route running perspective, they are two of the better route runners to be on the same team, and they don't play the same role. Coop is a Z. I see Jeudy as a slot. He's a guy that they snuck in a lot of bunch formations, kept him on the inside. They'd even rotate him back in the backfield, but not to get him carries or anything, just to give him free releases. And because if you can keep him clean, he can do damage. He has excellent play strength in the field of play with the ball in his hands. He's real slippery and gives you yards after the catch, but he's not strong that way at the line of scrimmage and can get knocked off his stem pretty easily. So they have to find ways to kind of keep him free. But from a route running perspective, he's got a lot of skills.
How does he differ from Elijah Moore?
More of a slasher, short area. Like, what's crazy is Moore has a lot of shake to him. You thought he'd have been a natural for the slot, but he does his damage down the field. He, for whatever reason, and probably just growing up playing that position, being that number one receiver, always being on the outside, he just doesn't operate the same in traffic. Jeudy has not had that problem because even though he has slider frame, no problem at all going over the middle of the field. Probably a difference in the way they're utilized throughout high school and college that prepared him mentally to play that position.
Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Daily, as well as the Barking Browns podcast, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Anytime, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out. Dawg Daily and the Barking Browns podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, it's March, and we are going to welcome the commissioner of the Mid-American Conference, Dr. John Steinbrecher. We are talking Mid-American Conference basketball tournament. Stay with us on Sports4CLE.
Go ahead and pop a clamp on that. Let's take 5. With one of these 5 Lady Luck scratch-offs from the Ohio Lottery, like this new $20 100X with its $1 million grand prize, I want to get my cut of that 76% payout.
So, good news. We're playing the largest family of scratch-offs ever. These Lady Lucks have all the fun and no complications.
Our attention to March Madness Mid-American Conference Tournament, both the men's and women's quarterfinals underway early this week. Women take center stage Wednesday. Tomorrow, the men's quarterfinals will be Thursday, semifinals Friday for both, and the championship games on Saturday. Let's welcome in Dr. John Steinbrecher. He is the commissioner of the Mid-American Conference. Dr. Steinbrecher, I know the conference is excited about this, and they're excited because the tournament continues to be at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, downtown Cleveland, just a great facility.
We think it's the best facility in the country, quite frankly. But yeah, we are excited. And, we're kind of in the middle of a streak of a whole bunch of championships. Just came off a weekend where we had wrestling and men's swimming. The weekend before we had women's swimming. We've got women's gymnastics coming up. It's a great time of year in our office and our campuses, in fact, across all of college sports. And yet so much of the attention is focused in on March Madness, men's and women's basketball, and rightly so. March is a phenomenal month, and we're looking forward to it.
How excited are the student athletes to be in that venue? And again, you can get tickets. You check out getmaction.com. That'll direct you to the place where you can get tickets. Women's semifinals and finals coming up Friday, Saturday. Quarterfinals for the women Wednesday. Quarterfinals for the men on Thursday. But how excited are the student athletes to be in that NBA venue at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse?
I think we all recognize we play in a special place. We're one of the few that play in an NBA arena. We play in an NBA arena with a franchise and an ownership group and a community that has continued to reinvest in the facility. So we're a year past where they completed a pretty significant, about a $250 million renovation of the building. So it's essentially a new building, and it's really second to none. And so the experience we can provide for the participants, the student athletes, is phenomenal. What they did over the summer and fall in updating and upgrading the locker rooms and those kind of behind the scenes area it was really phenomenal. And then what goes on in the bowl itself, the areas for the fans to be, whether it's wandering the concourses and visiting the various neighborhoods, or just being in the arena seating area where the sight lines are so great, all the amenities that go with it, we can provide a top of the line experience for all involved.
You mentioned one of the top facilities in the country. Along those lines, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and the Mid-American Conference will be hosting the Women's Final Four. Take us through that process and how excited you are to be partnering with Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and the NCAA to put on national championship semifinals and finals here in Cleveland.
And I'll actually add another partner, and that's the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. And the three of us have really developed over the past decade plus a tremendous relationship and a pretty good success record of hosting NCAA championship events. Clearly, this is one of the pinnacle events in all of college sports. It's one of the premier women's basketball events in the world. I'd go back to really 2017 and 2018. I think we secured the bid in 2018. 2017 was a prep year, getting everything in place. We were one of, I don't know how many ultimately put in bids. There was a finalist group of eight of us went down to Tampa, made presentations, and we were very pleased to be one of four that secured one of the championships. And we've been waiting since. And so working very hard with the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission and the arena to do the types of things, the prep work, a lot of creativity on the events around it. It's not just 3 basketball games over a couple of days. It's a week of events, many of them public facing, so that people, many people, even if you don't have tickets to the games, you can come and enjoy the events down in Public Square or at the convention center or throughout the community. There's a host of legacy events we're doing. There's a reading program going on right now that is absolutely phenomenal. It's fun to watch it come to fruition because it's been a 6-year march towards this, and now we're kind of in the final days of getting ready for it.
Yeah, and women's basketball, women's college basketball is really trending in terms of visibility and TV ratings and all those good things. It's reaching all-time highs as well.
You know, it really is, and rightly so. It's always been a great sport, and people are discovering it. And part of what's helping is it's a deeper, broader sport. There's more really good teams. It's not just 1 or 2 teams. There's a host of really good teams. I could speak even to our league, and our league has had pretty good success in this sport. We're not too many years off where we had 2 Sweet 16 teams in a single year. Well, we've got 2 top 75 teams right now in Toledo and Ball State as we head into our basketball tournament. You know, you're seeing these personalities emerge, whether it's Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, whomever, just a bunch of things. And then obviously you've always had colorful coaches, but now when you match the players with the coaches, the depth of the field, I think it makes it something that's really capturing the attention of the sports viewing public.
All right, before I let you go, some big news from the Mid-American Conference, a conference that has been so stable relative to the turmoil that's going on across college athletics. You've added a member school, the University of Massachusetts. They were involved in the periphery on some sports as well, but a full-time member. How excited are you about that? What went into deciding to add UMass?
We were very pleased, and this was one of those situations where when you get approached, you step back and contemplate it. And at the end of the day, the analysis was this was too good an opportunity to not move forward on a host of things. You mentioned we've been a very stable conference, and it's because of a number of things. Great commonality or homogeneity in what we look like as institutions in general, how we operate our athletics programs, depth and breadth of programs, all those types of things. Here's another national public research institution, and in this case, it's one of the top 35, top 50 public universities in the country. It's a flagship institution. It's in a contiguous state to our conference. So a lot of really great things there, and we think they will in fact strengthen us. They have a tremendous men's basketball history. I think people probably jump to that right away, and we look forward to getting them integrated into our conference play right off the bat. And then in football, they're a program that needs to grow, but they didn't have a chance to grow and develop that program until they got into a conference. From when they were with us as an affiliate member in football to where they are today is night and day in terms of their investment in the program, in terms of what they've done with their coaching staff, their support facilities, those types of things. They're set up for success. I will be surprised if in a number of sports they don't come in and push to be at or near the top of the field across the board.
So I guess the next logical question is, are there potential others to add to, because I think you're at 13 now, so obviously you probably want to be at an even number, and I'm just guessing that.
You know what? I have my college football jersey here. Let me show it to you. Right there.
All right.
High school and college, my number was 13. I'm in no way uncomfortable with that number. Now, we'll do the same things we have always done, and I guess it's pretty clear, since this is the first school we've brought in since, I think, 98, we don't just open up the door to anyone. We'll pay attention to what's going on around us. If there's opportunities, we will contemplate and evaluate. And if there's opportunities that make us stronger, we'll take advantage of them. But we're not going to add just to have an even number.
Dr. John Steinbrecher, Commissioner of the Mid-American Conference. As always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much. Look forward to seeing you down at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this week. Thank you very much.
Dave, good to be with you.
Dr. John Steinbrecher, Commissioner of the Mid-American Conference, telling us about MACtion, which gets underway tomorrow, the Women's Final Four, which they are putting on with the NCAA, Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, and the addition of UMass to the Mid-American Conference. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.